the record. Council agenda, Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, Township Council agenda meeting of May 7th, 2019. Posting of notice. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Publics Meeting Law by filing the notice in the Township of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board in the Municipal building on December 19th, 2018, where it has remained posted since that date. The legal notice appeared in the Daily Record of the Newark Star Ledger on December 27th, 2018, and was forwarded by fax to other local newspapers and the local radio stations on December 19th, 2018. No council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision Public Access Channel 21 at 11 a.m. on Sundays and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. Please rise for the flag salute. Grignani, if you would.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Present.
Okay. Ms. McCarthy is excused for today. Ms. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Carriffy?
Here.
Also in attendance are Business Administrator Keith Kasmark, CFO Ann Cucci, Township Attorney Jim Lott, and the Township Clerk Colette Madden. Council President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, May 14th at 7 p.m. regular meeting, June 11th, 7 p.m. agenda meeting. Approval of minutes, presentations, reports.
Council President,
Council,
before
go ahead.
we do the presentations, I'd like to wish Colette Madden, our Township Clerk, Kareem Ramadan Kareem.
Thank you.
Sorry, I said it backwards. I apologize.
Thank you.
Got good intentions there, so it's all that
Yes,
matters.
I did.
Okay, any Township Council members have anything?
I just have one thing. I spoke to Jim Walsh about the potential new projects coming down the pipeline that we've approved the bonding, specifically the cricket field, and I just want to clarify that without the staff members, it's not that he's not going to build any new construction projects, and that includes the cricket field. And it's not an issue of the construction that would be contracted out either way. It's that the department is already stretched thin enough that he, in his estimation, can't support the construction and maintenance of a new field. And so I just wanted it on the record that if hopes were high for that cricket field, as of this budget approval, that's not any longer in the future.
Okay. I also spoke to Mr. Walsh, and I respectfully disagree with him. We did put 2 people back in the budget, so for him to say that because of one employee is going to be responsible for the maintenance of the new cricket field, and we're not going to build the new cricket field because of one laborer in the parks, I think that is absolutely ridiculous. So I respectfully disagree with that, and I will be doing everything possible to make sure that that field gets built.
I agree with you.
Township Attorney, Mr. Lott.
As noted on the agenda, I have 2 matters for closed session. One involves contract negotiation for the Southeast Morris Water Utility, and the other one concerns the agreement for Habitat Humanity, Henry Street.
Thank you. Business Administrator, Mr. Kasmore.
Thank you, Council President. Just a few matters. On April 24th, there was a public hearing held by JCP&L on their proposed new lines through the township. It was a hearing which was well attended. The primary focus of the hearing was intended to be the land swap with regard to the diversion through a Green Acres parcel. Number of residents spoke at that hearing. In my estimation, and I made this public after the hearing, I did not feel that JCP&L was adequately prepared to answer the questions that the residents had, nor did I feel that they gave satisfactory answers on some of the most simplistic and basic questions. I made that clear along with the township clerk to the representatives from JCP&L at the conclusion of the hearing, and we received word the following morning from JCP&L that they were going back to the drawing board on this project to seek alternatives based upon the residents' concerns that were expressed during the hearing. And at this point, they have not asked or requested any subsequent meetings with the township until they figure out how they are going to move forward, if they do at all. Secondly, for the council's edification, we've concluded contracts with the Blue Collar Local 1 unit, as was discussed during our budget hearings. That contract is on for your consideration and review this evening, as is the corresponding salary ordinance. And also tonight listed for your review are the salary ordinance for all of the white-collar non-union folks, which was also discussed during budget hearings. That's all I have.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment in reference to what you stated about that meeting. I've spoken to many residents that live in that area, and it is of great concern to me that, I know there are no one is happy with that route, including myself, and I just want anyone that's from that neighborhood to know that I will fully support you, and, I represent the entire town, and when there is an area that there are a lot of people that are not happy with something, we work for you. So you're not happy, I'm not happy, and I will fight for you all the way.
I have spoken to a resident, Mr. Fisher. I've spoken to him several times, and I'm going to agree with Paul. We are here to serve you and to make sure that whatever is important to you is important to us. And hopefully, Jersey Central Power and Light will rethink what they were proposing.
Okay, Township Clerk, Mr. Madden.
Just one item, Council President. We have the primary election coming up, and I just want to remind everyone about the voter registration. Voter registration deadline is May 14th, and I also want to remind everyone that in the primary election, you can vote only your party unless you're undeclared, and if you vote at that time at the polls, you will be declared that party, and then you'll have to change it back. So just a quick reminder for everyone. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Township officers, committees, reports, anything?
I want to thank the residents who came to the daycare center rummage sale. I understand it was a very well-attended and a success for the daycare center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one item, Council President. Under Township Officers, Committees, and Reports, we received an email that there's a vacancy on the Open Space Committee. I serve as liaison to the Open Space Committee, and the one is not really a vacancy, there's a name there whose term has expired. I will try to reach out to see if that person wants to continue to serve on the Open Space Committee.
Thank you. Okay, engineering report, Lake Parsippany Road Improvements, Phase 6 project. The project is substantially complete and only minor punch list items remain. All work will be completed by the end of May. No council action required. Moraine Road Area Streets, Phase 2 project. The second phase of this project is substantially complete. All work will be completed by the first week of May. No council action required. Mount Tabor Area Streets, Phase 3 improvement project. Construction is approximately 75% complete. The project will be substantially complete by the end of May. No council action required. Drainage issues. Engineering and the Public Works Department are actively investigating numerous drainage issues, continue wet weather and very high groundwater levels throughout the township. The Cherry Lane issues are still being evaluated, and the Water Department is further investigating the possibility of a water main leak. Excavation equipment will be on site in 2 weeks to conduct subsurface investigations. No council action required. Edgewood Court Reconstruction project. The project is in construction and will be complete by the beginning of June. No council action required. Sandra Drive and Sandra Court Reconstruction project. The pre-construction meeting was held and construction work is anticipated to start by the beginning of May. No council action required. 2019 road resurfacing curb and sidewalk program. The pre-construction meeting for this project will be held the second week of May, and the construction is anticipated to begin at the end of June once schools are out. No council action required. On Bloomfield Ave, Phase 2 reconstruction project. The pre-construction meeting for this project will be held in the middle of May. Construction is anticipated to start in the beginning of June. No council action required. Mount Tabor Fire District 1, major soil moving permit, Block 14, Lot 12.01. The Board of Adjustment has recommended approval of a major soil moving permit associated with the Forge Pond Developers Site Plan application on Old Dover Road. This office has reviewed the application and recommends the Township Council approve the permit. A resolution will need to be adopted by the Township Council. Bids taken April 4th, supplying various materials for the municipal utilities and public works. April 18th, paper leaf bags to be taken. May 21st, one new Diamond Z horizontal grinder or approved equivalent for the Parks and Forestry Department. Quotations, proposals, qualifications. April 11th, fireworks display services. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Motion?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Okay, floor is open to the public.
Okay, at this time, I believe there's a list. People have signed in already. If you have signed in, if we could just go on that. Go in order. Yeah. And then you'll be given 5 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Hi, Robert Peluso, former Vice President of the Council, 15 Larkspur Drive, with my son, Robert Peluso, the future of Parsippany, our children, our families. I have a statement here. I'm speaking on behalf of many taxpayers that could not come this evening, and many of our constituents as well. As you can see, we know how to fill a room because the public has some information that they want to share with you. In regards to the property where our township owns Block 621, lots 11, 13, and 24, that is encumbered by green acre restrictions. And whereas JCP&L Reinforcement Project will cross this restricted township land and bodies of water, JCP&L requires rights from the township and your approval as council in connection to this project. JCP&L had a scoping hearing that you did not attend, but we have 125 residents approximately that came to that meeting, and we hope you reviewed the public comments. JCP&L indicated on their slide presentation they had other alternatives. Take no action and not construct the project. Utilize system alternatives and upgrades to transmission system, which may cost them a little bit more money, but it protects these people behind me, our residents. We serve at the pleasure of our residents. We are public servants. Consider alternate routes and use construction alternatives. The residents have spoken, and we request that you vote no when this comes across your council. If you vote no, you will be part of the following. You will be agreeing with our environmental committee concerns. You will not be granting easements where there is no current right-of-way. You will be preventing possibility of the Pilgrim Oil Pipeline from sharing this same right-of-way and having crude oil coming through our community. You'll be preventing the destruction of the endangered wetlands that retain water. You'll be protecting heavily forested neighborhoods. You'll be protecting the destruction of wildlife and the endangered species on the property. You'll be protecting the destruction of the natural watershed that causes added flooding to the residents, in which our township, and as councilmen and councilwomen that are up here, you may have seen this, bless you, it's true, that the homes of the future may have to be purchased by Parsippany if they're flooded at the township expense, because there's been a strain on emergency services with evacuations similar to the expenses we endured in Lower Lake Hiawatha. Which brings me up to the point that you'll be protecting the main pumping station number 4 of Parsippany Troy Hills that protects Lower Lake Hiawatha and the surrounding neighborhoods. You'll be preventing JCP&L from adding easements over existing township utility easements that uses pipelines that remove sewage and stormwater from our community. You'll be protecting the property values and maintain the stable ratables. By devaluing the properties of the residents, we will lose our ratables. You'll be protecting our children, our seniors from perceptions of high voltage lines causing diseases. You'll be preserving the quality of life for our residents due to visual pollution and the high voltage noise. But in closing, the residents of this affected area are asking you to protect the taxpayers, our families, our future children. Vote no. We hope that you make the right decision and vote no in this matter, which you will be remembered directly in November by the surrounding 400 plus voters that are here that represent this community. We thank you and remind you again, please protect the residents, vote no. Thank you.
Hank Gola, 7 Ray Street. I feel I'm actually preaching to the choir a little bit after your opening remarks on the same subject. But I'd like to go on the record as to our feelings about this proposed project with JCP&L. A couple of weeks ago, we got up for breakfast and looked out the back window. Everything in our backyard was in bloom: dogwood, crabapple, magnolia, and the cherry. It was a beautiful scene that we've enjoyed many times since we moved into our house in 1981. A thought occurred to me, and I rushed out to take a photo to capture what I feared was a vanishing landscape. I thought that a year from now, when the trees are in bloom, we're going to be looking at what JCP&L calls a monopole and what I call a monstrosity. If these plans go through, JCP&L would be ruining our part of Parsippany, turning our backyard into an industrial park. And no matter how many acres the township trades, it will be forever. JCP&L will be changing the view, the environment, and the wildlife. Flood patterns will be altered for the worse, and our property values will decrease by an estimated 20%. We attended the recent scope hearing where it was evident that JCP&L cares not a whit about our concerns. The project manager was clueless in his knowledge of the area. He thought that the JCP&L and PSE&G lines ran parallel to each other. He didn't know where Sagamore Road was. He was arrogant in his ignorance. I urge the council to fight JCP&L so that this part of Parsippany is not forever lost, like so many other pristine areas of the township. I implore you to keep our area the way it was when my wife and I, 27-year-old parents of a 2-year-old, fell in love with our lot the moment we saw it. Please keep Parsippany, Parsippany. Thank you for your time. Bless you.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Church. I live at 16 Larkspur Drive. I don't want poles. I don't want wires, especially 280,000 volt wires running either behind my house or across the street. How close do I have to get to the mic? I mean, I believe everybody can hear me, correct?
It's for the record.
No, Brenda,
It's
this is
not
just for the record. It's not for hearing, just so we have you on the record.
Okay, is that any better? All right. Do I have to start over?
No.
Good. I moved to Parsippany in 2001 from a town in Essex County, a town that had buses almost every other street, police cars, all kinds of noise. On my block, when I moved, it was so quiet. I didn't even know, it was like a total different place. That was the best thing that I loved about that street. When they built the Longhorn and all those townhouses, we lost a lot of that quiet. When Hurricane Irene came through, my neighbor called us, because we were in Texas at my son's BMT graduation from the Air Force. Oh, everything's fine, everything's fine. Until we got home, couldn't even get home from the airport, finally got to my block. I had to walk down the street with my shoes off. I came into my house, my basement was completely flooded. Up to the top step of the steps going down, my freezer was floating in the muck. I don't want another issue with flooding. It's been raining these past few days. My kids and I know, check the pump, check the pump, check the pump. Anybody doing any kind of construction is going to mess up that. I don't want that. I don't want my property values reduced 1%, let alone anywhere from 10 to 20%. Because are you guys gonna lower my taxes? No, I didn't think so. So please do not let JCP&L ruin a good neighborhood. Pond Road, Sagamore, Ray Street, Sweetwater, they're all beautiful neighborhoods. They want to run those wires too close to Rockaway Meadow. Do we know exactly what's going to happen to children's brains if they're sitting up under 280,000 volts all day? Our seniors, how do we know that's not going to destroy their brains with Alzheimer's, dementia? We just don't know exactly what it's going to do. Please do not let them play whatever games they want to play. Keep them out of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Can I just reiterate what the business administrator said at the beginning? I appreciate everyone's sentiments, and you have our support, unequivocally.
That's great.
Danny Illick, 319 Edwards Road. Mr. Kazmark assured us that this wouldn't happen. The council has assured us. Is there any way possible that the council could put forth a resolution to make sure that that land, that Green Acres land, is not sold? That there's a resolution put forward. So, listen, everybody here is a politician, right? So what you're telling me today, might not happen 6 months from now. Once election time comes in November, you guys are in office, things are forgotten. So regardless if you're a Democrat or Republican, we would like it put on a record, and we would like it put in a resolution to make sure that that land is not sold. Once the JCP&L has to get their thing done, they're going to start sending money. You guys need money. You're running for election, right? So send their attorneys, their friends. Everybody starts shoveling money. And all of a sudden, you approve it 6 months down the road. We'll take care of you after election. So please, if possible, we'd like a resolution put forth. Is that possible? Can somebody answer that?
I've just asked our attorney, and he says nothing can be done at the present time.
Oh.
They have to come before us to make another proposal, and at that time, we can vote.
Through you, Council President Dan, I think what you're asking for is already accomplished, right?
Correct.
So this property that was discussed at the hearing.
Well, listen, it was just same thing as the Whole Foods property. That project was dead in the water too at one point.
Okay,
and it happened anyway.
But hear me out.
So go ahead, I'm listening.
So the property that was discussed for the project, right? The yellow area on the map when we were there. Okay, that property is already protected through Green Acres.
Okay.
So what you're asking for, in essence, has already been accomplished when that was secured as Green Acres property. Okay. What they would be asking for is essentially a swap of land for that land for another parcel, okay, of land within the township, in order to make the required exchange under the Green Acres program.
No, I understand. I was at the meeting. They either wanted to give you a swap or give the township a lump sum in cash if that swap couldn't be, if they couldn't find the acreage to swap with. So it was either cash to the township for that property,
Right.
or 10 to 1, or a swap. So there is no swap to be made. I don't see an 8-acre parcel in the township of Parsippany to swap with. So bottom line is where you're left with is cash. So, listen, we're all here tonight. This project's going to go on. They're going to come back with a proposal. Hopefully everybody doesn't forget. We're probably going to have to come back here again. My concern is that, come November, now everybody's in office again, and, let's sneak it through again. Because, you guys try to sneak that through. JCP&L did, if it wasn't for a couple people that knew about it and did the legwork to get everybody to come out. So, we're just asking that in some way, shape, or form that the township residents are protected, that this doesn't go through and that property is not given to JCP&L. All right, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Walter Morales, 30 Vale Road. I appreciate that you guys are stating that you're going to support us, and I think we all really appreciate that. This is the last thing that we want for this town and for our families. I have a young son growing up in the town. I moved here from Newark, trying to get away from a lot of bad influences and bad things that were going to hurt me, and this is a completely different animal that could potentially be cancerous, right? I think that's a word that nobody's really saying, but that we really need to consider. So one of the things that I'd like to say is we really need to do it. if JCP&L comes back and there's any consideration of these towers, we really should have some type of health testing done to see what the ramifications are of these towers, because they keep stating that they do all this testing and they never find anything, but conveniently none of JCP&L's people live anywhere near any towers at any given time, and they always state the same thing. Oh, well, we don't know, we don't live anywhere near them. You know, there's good reason why. I also wanted to bring up a couple of key points from the meeting. Mr. Kazmark was there, right? Obviously, and one of the major points that was brought up was the mosquito spraying. So that's a big key point that shows that we're not going to be able to spray those wetlands for mosquitoes anymore. So it's really going to infest that entire area with mosquitoes. Another point that was made was every time you dig into that soil or you add any weight into that soil, the flooding is ridiculously impacted. So if you were to throw in these concrete blocks under the water, that water will disperse into all of these houses in that general area. And you're talking about hearing about basements flooding. We're going to be talking about first floors and potentially second floors flooding in some areas, just because the massive amount of water that goes through those wetlands is just going to have absolutely nowhere to go. Another key point, and obviously, you know, not to take them for granted, but there's a lot of very, very delicate wildlife, trees, shrubberies, animals that really are not protected, and I think we need to protect them. There was also something that was put on Facebook that I saw about the township asking DEP to look into this project. I really don't understand why the town would ask DEP if they've already stated that everybody here is stating that you don't want any part of this. And then additionally, there was a review that was done, and it basically stated this: there was a complete and unbiased investigation that was done into the need for the proposed project by JCP&L, and the purpose of the project is to upgrade Montville and Whippany reinforcement. We're in Parsippany. It has nothing to do with our town. It's total BS, right? Additionally, in this report, they also stated that by adding an additional 230 volt line into the Montville substation, the transmission disruptions during these periods of great demand can be taken care of. So there are other options without having to put new lines in place that they can do. It's going to cost them money. Let them pay for it. This is what they want. They want to help out Montville and Whippany. This should be a Montville and Whippany problem, not a Parsippany problem. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pat Pushak, 9 Ray Street. I have a question. I'd like to know where Mr.
Pat,
DePiro...
can you just get a little bit closer to the mic?
Okay, I have a question. I'd like to know where Mr. DePiro stands on this issue. We've heard from Mr. Kafari and Loretta. So are you also going to vote no or go against JCP&L for us? I'd like to know how you stand on this issue.
We can turn down this route, which is what you're asking, but I think JCP&L needs to run it someplace. So I don't think voting no on this is going to end the issue. I think they're going to be looking someplace else. Some other group of residents will be coming here. I don't think they're going to give up. So I think we have to stay vigilant on what they're doing in our town.
Well, we addressed
Are you
the
familiar
yellow...
with the giant power lines now that exist?
Yes, I am.
Going through the Arlington Shopping Center?
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But they're
those
not
are-
behind, exactly
well,
behind my my street,
The
my
initial,
house.
the initial route that JCP&L proposed was to the eastbound side of those existing green giants. One of the poles would have been in a resident's backyard on Alba Place.
Mm-hmm, I know where that is.
Another pole would have been, is Ken Dolsky here?
No.
Would have been right near Ken Dolsky's backyard. The right-of-way would have gone up to his back door. So there are other routes that they can take, and they're all impacting on residents in Parsippany one way or another. So
but you were speaking of the yellow line, okay? My house and all of Ray Street is the red line that was on the map that you had shown. So what are they gonna do about that? They're not gonna take from the yellow to go to the red,
Well,
are
all
they?
I'm saying is they could possibly go back to their original route and upset
They have some
those
existing
families.
right-of-ways.
They have existing right-of-ways. They were gonna share the right-of-way with the Green Giants, just be to the right of them. There's gas lines over there now that they would be dangerously near and near a bunch of residents. There's no good solution for them unless they simply don't do it.
Yeah, that's what we're asking for. Don't do it. So I just,
I thought I just answered. It's no on this, but, okay, let me be clear then, okay?
Guys, excuse me.
Hold on.
We cannot scream from the audience. You guys can have your turn to come up and speak at the mic, but just to maintain order, we cannot yell from the audience. I do apologize for any inconvenience that may cause, but we need to maintain order here.
All right, I'll answer clearly so you can understand it. It's no on this, but all I'm saying is, I don't think that ends the issue. It's gonna pop up someplace else.
okay,
And
thank
we
you.
will deal with it when it comes
And
to
we'll deal with it
us.
when it pops up.
That's all.
That's all we can do.
Thank you.
If I may add to that, I like two options. Either don't do it, or do the infrastructure upgrades, let them pay more money, and it doesn't affect any of it.
Hi, my name is Warren Fisher. I live at 20 Sweetwood Court, and I'd like to make a few comments. Thank you. What I hear is it'll be a no for the diversion of the Green Acres, which the township is supposed to hold in perpetuity. I'd also like to give a shout out to Mr. Hope I get it right, Kazmark.
There you go.
He had a tough meeting to run the other night, April 24th. I think he did a fine job.
That's right.
One thing I'd like to bring to the attention of the council, it's in my letters. I'm sure you had it. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but there's a BPU report with a long title on it. Generally, it was about their meetings with Montville and JCP&L and the BPU. In it, it's very clear by the JCP&L consultant himself that a 115 kV line is all they need. It serves the NERC category requirements, and it serves JCP&L requirements. If you refer to my letter, it refers you right to the paragraph that says it. This 213 kV line is not needed by JCP&L's own words. I won't go through all the details because I think my letter, pretty well outlines everything. It's got a huge impact to all of us. There's something else. I'm going to lose my mind here. I guess the main point is Green Acres is supposed to be held in perpetuity. That's right off the New Jersey DEP site. Thank you for the position that I understand you're going to be taking. And keep in mind that this project is not needed. And it's interesting to note also, because I've seen this in newspapers, the original route, and this is in the BPU report also, says they have 14 to 28 buyouts. In newspaper articles that I've read about all of this, I've read that they think there's only 3 affected homes along the new route. Well, I present to you more than 3 homes worth of people. The information that JCP&L has been putting out in newspapers and in their own documents is contradictory and not right. I hope you will take a close look at what I put in the letters because I do detail it. Thank you for your support. I know we'll be back again. I think you're probably right. JCP&L might be back, but they did say that one of their options is not to do it. So if we're strong enough and collectively present our opposition, then maybe they'll take that that option not to do it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
the packet I received in my mailbox this evening, is that the same information that you presented to me via email? Or is
Yes.
this an additional
Yes.
information?
It's the same, Mr. Fisher.
Okay.
I don't know what package you got this evening. I sent you a letter last week that you
Yes.
acknowledged.
Yes.
And I sent you an email yesterday, I think
Yes.
it was. That's all I've issued.
Okay.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
James Griffey, Parsippany. I have some other things I'd like to talk about, but after seeing so many residents here, I found something interesting that Mr. Illick had said about why make these people come back? Pass the resolution. And then Loretta said there's nothing before us to vote on. But there was nothing before us about a marijuana dispensary. And you put a motion out, a resolution that passed. There was nothing about a sanctuary city, but you put a resolution out. Put a resolution out for these people and vote on it so they don't have to come back. That's my first thing. The second thing is this cricket field. That is absolutely ridiculous, Ms. Peterson, if that's what Mr. Walsh is saying. This is cricket field has been an issue every election. Every election. You mean to tell me one or two people is going to make the difference? I happen to agree with my brother on this, only for that simple fact, but I think as I speak further down and I address the new PAL director, perhaps we could find the money to help build for the Indian community this cricket field. I want to just talk about the Parsippany police officer that you forced to retire for allegedly stealing time. Then you forced him to retire because of this incident, and you put a motion forward, Mr. DePiero, and you seconded it, Loretta, to allow him to retire in good standing. And you also allowed him to be paid his accumulated time. With that being said, in February of 19, the same time, let me read this letter from the Parsippany Police Department. Accordingly, the records provided by the Support Service Division, Patrolman X, was issued a 2 gigabyte flash drive by the department on April 14, 2008. Patrolman X advised me this morning that that particular flash drive became inoperable about 7 to 8 years ago, and its whereabouts are unknown. Mr. DePiero, Ms. Loretta, I ask you, hold yourself the same accountability as you did me. I turned mine in. This is out there. Here's another one. I was here last meeting. 45 officers, I told you. This is 46. 46. But you don't care about anybody else, just me. Okay, now I'll move on to the PAL. Maybe we can find some money to build the Indian community this cricket field. So we have a former Parsippany police officer that runs the PAL for $104,000 a year. Doesn't accept medical benefits. Great. Knows the demographics of the town, knows the school, knows the roads, knows everything about the town. Spent a significant amount of time. What happens? I don't know why he's leaving or why he's being forced out, but now we bring in a new guy at $120,000 a year plus benefits that knows nothing about Parsippany. And here's the kicker. You want to know where the guy's from? He's from the town of the BA, Woodland Park, where he's the mayor. He knows nothing about Parsippany. Doesn't even know where North Beverwick Road is. Talk about Sagamore, you don't even know where North Beverwick Road is. Not only that, it gets worse. It gets worse. They're keeping the former PAL director on as a consultant at $3,000 a month. $3,000 a month is $36,000 a year. $36,000 a year. You know how much one school resource officer would cost? $36,000. You could put that money towards either the cricket field or one officer in one of the elementary schools that's not protected. And here's my last thing. It's a civil service position. It's a civil service position. Why not give the benefit of the doubt for the Parsippany employees that work so hard, that we all commend election time, we commend on how hard they work. Why not give them an opportunity to take this test to make $120,000 that a guy from Woodland Park walked in and got the other day, then knows nothing about Parsippany? Why? Ask me that. Why? Why can't we give that test and make it fair? Soriano ran on cleaning up Parsippany. This is the same stuff that's happened with the Barbario administration, all these backroom deals. That guy doesn't know anything about Parsippany either. It's ridiculous. So again, I'll ask some questions. I know you don't plan on answering, Mr. Lott, but I do have one that perhaps you will allow them to answer. My first one is, why is it acceptable for an officer to retire with full benefits and his compensatory time from the township when the township is aware that he didn't return department property? And all these people, personal information is out there. You can't change it now, Mr. DePiero. You said it all about me. What about these other 46 people? 46 flash drives and information is out there. that nobody knows. All these people are in danger. That's my
minute.
first question.
1 minute.
1 minute left. Mike and Loretta, you put this motion forward to allow this officer to retire. Why are you taking that same position? Why? And then here's one that you may allow him to answer, Mr. Lott. Why didn't the township call for a civil service exam for the PAL director and give our current township employees an opportunity to further their career, the ones that may possibly even live in town, to get this job? Anybody?
So I'll give the advice I gave at the prior meetings when the issues concerning,
I'm sorry, Mr. Lott, I'm sorry to cut you off. Before he cuts me off, I do have one last thing, and that is about my next topic next week will be about the Knoll Country Club. So I just want to know, Mr. Kazmarek, if you could let me know by that meeting if all the handicap parking spots meet the state regulations, if they're all signed, approved, marked, and the signs are up on them. If you could let me know that.
I'll consult with the municipal engineer.
Thank you.
Mr. Carriffy? Mr. Carriffy, if I may, please?
Yes.
In regard to the sergeant that you're talking about, that Mike and I approved for him to get his comp time, I did not want this man to be fired. Okay? I thought it was a ridiculous reason for him to be fired.
Ms. Granati, I think that we should stay out of personnel matters that were discussed in closed session.
Fine.
And I
That's
appreciate
it.
that, but here's the thing. He's not a sergeant anyway. He was a patrolman. So much, at least if you're going to talk about the individual, know what his background is. Thank you.
Nicholas Homiak from Lake Hiawatha. When Captain Carriffy comes up here, I wish he would remember he was targeted on purpose by Inglesino and Barbario because he was a threat, because Paul was a threat to their regime here. And I was in the town hall the night when Mr. Inglesino, when he brought Aurora Security, which looked into your brother's thumb drive and found absolutely nothing, and the excuse before that happened was there was rogue phone calls being made in Parsippany in the sewerage plant to North Korea, Taiwan, and England. England is where Aurora happened to be based. But if you thought someone was making rogue phone calls, and I believe it was over $30,000 that Parsippany was being charged, the town clerk could have settled the problem. But Mr. Inglesino had to get in. But why wouldn't you get the FBI involved? Why would you get Aurora's security? And the next thing, pin the tail on Captain Carriffy with Aurora. A big waste of taxpayers' money, a complete hoax, and that Mr. Inglesino did no good to this whole town. He used this town to make money for himself and his law firm. And I don't think your brother, by all rights, should take it out on, shame on the people who let Mr. Inglesino get as far as he did. But the whole thing was caused, the Aurora thing was to ruin you and keep them in power here. And that's all I have to say. And I just don't think that Captain Carriffy should punish the new town of Parsippany for that particular incident. I think he should let it stay. He's going to settle it behind some other means. And that's, I'd like to say that.
Good evening. My name is Michael Pushek. I'm at 9 Ray Street. And the same thing I did at the last meeting that we're at with the JCP&L. Since they're bringing in lines through our area, which is behind my house, are they going to pay for my reduction in 20 to 30% my loss of my property? That's one. To all these people, too. They don't want to lose money. And how much is the town making off of this gig? Same answers.
I have no idea.
So now, They're going to put the lines through, they're going to devaluate our houses, and nobody's going to pay for that.
Through you, Council President, the town is not profiting off of this project.
Oh, they're not making any money?
No.
No?
No.
They're losing
And
money?
quite frankly, just to refer back to the earlier conversation where we talked about the land swap versus the compensation.
Yeah.
None of the conversations that I had been involved with JCP&L leading up to that hearing, which were limited, but in the few conversations that we did have, the compensation piece was never considered a viable option.
But once
if in fact this was to go forward, the consideration that was given was that there would be a land swap. So while there are options for how the town would be compensated, the path forward, should there have been public support for this, which clearly there was not, would have been to move forward with a land swap. So there is no financial benefit to the municipality for JCP&L building these lines. I just want to be clear about
That's
that.
fine. Now, are they making money off the lines?
But they're a
They're a utility.
company. They're a utility.
But
They make money. Yeah.
They're going to make money, a lot of money. We're not going to make anything. We're going to lose value. So at that meeting, I brought it up. They couldn't answer like you people can't answer. But the problem lies still, I don't want to take a 30% hit on my house to lose so they can make money. If they have other routes, because they don't want to pay the other municipality or whatever the town is, or the other lines that are up already, to hook onto their lines. They want to come through here to devaluate ours, but they don't want to pay the other electric company money. Is that a fact? They did bring that up.
PSE&G.
Yeah.
The proposal that was brought up.
So they
by
got
the
turned
first
down.
speaker.
They got turned down for money value.
They got turned down by PSE&G to gain access to their polls, yes.
Yeah.
That was in
okay.
the report.
So that was the payment. All right, now, if they run it through, are you going to take, since you have the ability, and you can do a resolution, can you turn around and say, well, you know what, these fine people lost value to their property. Why don't you give them tax-free land? Right? I mean, you can do that. I mean, you do a lot of other gigs in town. And some people know what they do in this town, because I was in front of this town for a preschool, and then I found out that the preschool is Parsippany Daycare, which is owned by the town. And they give $1 lease to that preschool. You ran me 5 years, 2 court cases to get mine approved, and you know that, because you were there. Children of America. You remember that one?
Yes, I do.
5 years because you had all your buddies on the board.
They weren't buddies. They were men and women that were appointed. Did I know them individually? No, I did not. So don't accuse me of that.
Let him ask all his questions.
That's all right. But that's what I wanted to know. See, so that was like behind closed door meetings. So same thing with this other deal, is all behind closed door meetings. So we should lose, but they should make out. I don't get that one. So if you guys can vote on it, that you're going to compensate us, so we don't lose, because we pay taxes. These are your taxpayers. And if you want to give us a break,
1 minute left.
if you want to give us a break, then charge everybody else in town raise their taxes. See how they go for that. But you want us to lose 30%. Thank you.
Sir. Sir, I will answer you one question, that last thing about the 30%. Obviously, we can't do that, but I assure you, because I know that affects your quality of life.
True.
Obviously, the value of your property is going to go down for that.
Correct.
And that is one of the reasons, that is one of, if not the main reason, why I will never support that, and that I will always fight against that and fight for you, because that will affect your quality of life. So can I give you 30% of the money back? No. But can I assure you that I will fight for you? Yes.
Well, all we got to do is, if they're making money, tell them to give us, so we can take it off our mortgage. That's all. That's what we want. We want 30% off our mortgage, so we don't have to pay more.
I wish I had that kind of authority, but
wait.
I don't.
When they go to you begging, let me put it through, you got to say, hey guys, take care of the people. Take care of the people. Thank you.
Heather Kirk. I live in Parsippany, 26 Sagamore Road. You mentioned you mentioned the land swap, which I'm glad that it's not about money. That's good to hear that my town is for the environment and making sure that we're all living in safe homes. As I understand it, the land swap is a 4-to-1 ratio, is what they need to do. My concern is that it needs to be of equal or better value, is my understanding of the terminology. I don't believe that there is 4 times more wetlands that they can swap for, and I want to make sure that we're not swapping for forest land or any other type of land. It needs to be equal or better, and the wetlands, of course, have a very important impact on our environment. Can I get assurance that there will not be a swap for another type of land and that it will be of equal land?
So through you, Council President, I could say that in very preliminarily, as we were going through the discussions that led to the public hearing, the town planner, Susan Favada, was asked to identify open parcels of land in the township that could be considered. Nothing was settled upon. To be honest with you, once the Green Acres hearing occurred, we dropped it because JCP&L informed us the next day that they were going back to the drawing board.
Okay.
We have preliminarily, and Susan was at that meeting that you attended, we had preliminarily put together some areas of land that would be considered. Exactly how the condition of those properties based on wetlands and the concerns you expressed both tonight and at the public hearing I can't
Correct.
speak to.
Yep.
But if this were to proceed, which at this point, listening
Hopefully
tonight,
it's not, right?
that would have to be taken into consideration.
Right, and that is just my point, is just to make sure that it would be of equal land, right? Because there's a lot of species out there in that wetlands. There's important, plants and everything like that, that swapping for something else, you're going to be losing, the wetlands are really, truly important to our environment. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mario Santulli, 30 Sagamore Road. Sorry I couldn't be at that meeting on the 24th. I had a loss of a family member.
Can I have you just speak into the mic for the record?
Sure.
Thank you.
Attorney Lott, could you answer the question that Captain Karifi had about the civil service position? I never got an answer about that.
I think I'd like to defer to Mr. Kazmark on that, who was involved in the hiring, but I think he was hired in a non-competitive position, if I recall.
The same title as the prior PAL director.
Correct.
Mr. Karifi, I'm a civil service employee also. And the town that I work for, same thing happened. Same thing happened. Mayor, it's not like dealing with employees, starts outsourcing. Hires an administrator.
Can I ask you to speak? Sorry, I just need you to speak into the mic. There you go.
Hires an administrator. Winds up getting him a job in another town. Doesn't want to do anything, nothing to do with civil service employees being in the pension. Now he is getting the benefits, getting the pension. It happens, everyone. Happens in every town. Smoke screens and mirrors. As far as Sagamore Road, to get back on topic, you guys have the ability, you're up here, okay? You deal with JCP&L. Proposal. I belong to a union. We negotiate. You negotiate. Proposal. You want this? Why are you even talking about land swapping properties? Why? That shouldn't be an issue. No. You're not doing it. If you do, these are stipulations. Tax exemptions for every resident that is affected by this whole situation. Flooding, anything that happens with flooding, who's going to be responsible? Okay? I want it in writing. Okay? It's on you guys. You represent us. Election's coming up. You were elected to represent the public, the taxpayers of Parsippany. Do right by us.
Hello, my name is Manish Mistry, 246 Edgewood Road, Parsippany. We raised this issue and concern about the environmental effect and flooding and health-related issues on that meeting in public scooping that day. when that meeting started, we were told that it's approved by the state, and it sounded like, you are here just to inform, but this is going to take place. That was the initial impression, and I was kind of scared the hell out of that thing because the line is passing right by my house. Initial impression was, we got approval, you are here just to be informed that this is going to take place. Even I see the marking of surveying on the land. If the township did not pass that thing, did not give permission, why did they do that thing when the matter is so far away from being built? Why did they do that thing?
Through you, Council President, what was said at the top of the hearing, and I do believe it may have been misinterpreted by some of the people in attendance, was that the project had been approved by the Board of Public Utilities in Trenton. Okay, that's a fact. Where the township comes into this and where the council comes into this is that the council would need to consider the route based on the fact that they are asking to take a different path with regard to these power lines. So they would be impeding on current open space as part of our open space inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were to go in the route that they have been proposing, the township would need to agree to that. But the project itself, okay, the extension of these power lines,
Mm-hmm.
has in fact been approved by the Board of Public Utilities.
Right. I mean, you guys, whether you are in administration or somebody else, should make sure this should not take place. Okay, this should not take place because it's affecting. We had a flooding in my house too. I had a flooding. I had almost $40,000-$50,000 worth of money went into that thing. Luckily, I had a flood insurance, but still, 6 or 7 months were living like hell. Okay, we have health consequences because of this thing. Flooding, environmental issues. And another suggestion is when we have a meeting like this, I would suggest that you guys, as elected members of the town, stay present to support us, because none of you were there, and it's kind of we have no support. You should be there when stuff like this kind of thing, very serious thing is happening. You should be there as our representative. We elected you to ensure that you take care of our well-being, you take care of our township.
Can you just get closer to the mic, sir? Thank you.
So stuff like issue like that, I suggest that you guys should be there because that's why we chose you. We elected you to ensure that our problem get resolved and we are protected. So that's one thing I definitely suggest. And as the gentleman said, the council should have some kind of resolution so they do not do this project either this year, because I remember this thing happened 3 or 4 years ago too. And so it will come again back in 3 or 4 years, or maybe in a couple years, God knows when. And we will be always under a threat of devaluating our house values, the environmental effect, the flooding. Why we do have to worry over and over and over on the same issue where we all know the consequences of this thing? That's it. Thank you very much.
My name is Bob Venezia. I live at 102 Brooklawn Drive, and I just like to make some comments about the PAL hiring practices that we just heard about. First observation I'd like to make is that since none of the statements that were made were refuted, I'm going to assume that every one of them were accurate. And
they were not.
They were not. Well, why didn't you refute them if they weren't? I'm going by the.
Go ahead, keep going. We'll do it at the end.
Okay. What I heard was we have hirings at inflated salaries. We have a hiring of a babysitter at $36,000 a year. And it wasn't brought up, but I also heard separately that another position was going to be created that had been eliminated years ago. So all of that adds up to, a decent amount of increased budget expenses, and there's no appreciable extra benefits to the taxpayers. That money could have been used, as some of the council members like to say, it could have been used for other purposes, like reducing debt or reducing the sewer and water transfers to the general budget. Now, big deal was made over the $50,000 that was transferred this, the reduction of $50,000 that was made this year. Well, you just wiped it out with this PAL business. Now, the next logical question that comes to my mind, probably a lot of other people's minds, is, okay, if this is going on here, how many other departments in the administration are hiring people at inflated rates? And how many other departments in the administration are creating unnecessary extra positions? The whole thing, it just erodes my confidence in the way the administration is being run. And I'd just like to sum it up by saying, this administration does not miss any opportunity to blame budgetary woes on the previous administration. Yet, you seem all too willing to overlook your own contributions to our budgetary problems brought about by your own questionable hiring practices at the PAL and probably other departments. Thank you.
Through you, Council President. Mr. Venezia, the PAL budget is not $1 more in 2019 than it was in 2018. Under prior. Just because Mr. Karifi gets up to the microphone and makes comments does not necessarily make those comments true. Number one, when I arrived here in October of last year, okay, the former PAL director came to visit me and told me that he had intentions of retiring. Okay, at that time, I met with the mayor, some other folks in the township administration, me being new, Ellen Sandman, my predecessor, being one of them. We generated an advertisement which was put out on the League of Municipalities website. I want to say, without having the file in front of me, that we had over 30 applicants. One of the requirements that we put in the ad was to have a recreation certification through the state of New Jersey. Okay, I can tell you that I want to say we interviewed approximately 11 individuals for the position. Okay, I can think of 2 that applied that were from the township of Parsippany. Okay, neither held the certification. One did in fact sit on the board of directors at the PAL and was extended an interview. Okay, we did an extensive interview process. It was not just me, it was myself and the former PAL director. We narrowed that pool of candidates down to conduct second interviews, and ultimately the third interviews were conducted by a panel representative of the administration and representative of the PAL board. Okay, this decision was not made in a vacuum. Okay, it was not made exclusively by me. Okay, the implication that this person has a residence in the town in which I live, I don't believe that we should discriminate against potential applicants who happen to live in the same town as the township business administrator. I don't think anybody would want to be treated in that way. Okay, but at the end of the day, the candidate that was selected and was hired, okay, is the only candidate who had a combination of nonprofit experience, because the PAL is not exclusively funded by the township of Parsippany. There is a nonprofit 501c3 portion of this, aspect to this, of running that building. Now, it is subsidized by the township. The township has allocated a certain budget amount for salaries and for operating expenses. Okay, those numbers were adjusted. To be honest with you, the township, past practice, has been to pay the PAL's bills, which is not good practice. Okay, so what we did was this year we decided to take a certain number of positions that are paid for by the township, where they are civil service employees, and allocate that in the budget under the PAL. The operating expenses will be given to them as an annual donation, and they will run their own operation down there as a 501c3 organization with a donation made by the council. That was agreed to at budget time. It was agreed to in discussions with the administration and with the council. So at the end of the day, while salaries have been adjusted, and quite frankly, staffing overall has been adjusted, we just transferred an employee from one department down to the PAL because we needed staff down there 5 days a week. Okay, but at the end of the day, when you take the totality of the operating expenses and the salaries and wages and you add them together, okay, the compensation package for this employee is equal to that of the former employee, especially in light of the fact that the former employee accepted a municipal vehicle and the current employee does not. So at the end of the day, the compensation packages are the same, and the total amount spent on the PAL, I will end with where I started. in 2019 is not a dollar more than it was in 2018.
The math, unless something that was said was incorrect, is the new director getting paid more money than the old director?
The overall compensation package is comparable. The only thing that you got to remember, some of it's paid through grant money. There was also compensation of the old director that came directly from the PAL, from the 501c3, that wasn't incorporated in the municipal salary. So, I mean, I can give this all to you on paper. I'd be glad to provide it to you, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Some of it's funded through a county grant for the Municipal Alliance. So, you want me to put it down on paper? I'll be glad to send it to you. I'll be glad to send it to Mr. Karifi. But I'm telling you right now, and I told the council this at budget hearings, okay, the amount spent on the PAL now is not a dollar more than it was last year.
So where did the money come from? I'm done. You get $36,000 for a babysitter. Where did it come from?
And let me say that too. Again, just because a comment is made at the public session does not make it true. Okay? Yes, the prior director, we have an arrangement from a consulting standpoint in order to have a proper transition down there. The contract for that is not for a year, so it does not amount to $36,000. It'll run through the end of September. He is there multiple times a week. He is available by phone, okay, to the existing staff at the PAL, especially as we transition to the community policing aspect of this, which in the next month or two, Chief Miller and Mr. Yodice, the new PAL director, will be here to present that to the council. Okay, but there's an entire new element that's taking shape at the PAL that didn't exist there prior, okay, and the staffing needs to be able to reflect that community policing initiative in addition to the traditional PAL role.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name's Kim Anderson, and can you hear me? My name is Kim Anderson, and I live in the Mount Tabor section of Parsippany. I'm here tonight because I wanted to address a resolution that 3 of the board members voted for. It's resolution 2019-101, and it has to do with objecting to New Jersey becoming a sanctuary city. Briefly,
was that New Jersey or was that Parsippany becoming a sanctuary city?
I'll read the resolution or the relevant parts of it. Let me see. It says, whereas Governor Phil Murphy's appointed Attorney General, Gubir Grewal, issued a so-called immigrant trust directive that severely limits the use of local law enforcement from cooperating with federal ICE agents, effectively making New Jersey a sanctuary state. There's other statements made in the resolution which I think do not represent the Parsippany that I know. One of the reasons I moved to this town and one of the reasons that I stay here is the diversity in this town. The statement I really think does not belong in any resolution. Basically, this says, whereas a sanctuary state means that the state of New Jersey would welcome illegal immigrants, even those who have committed additional serious crimes, and in turn threaten public safety and put our communities and residents at risk. That statement, it mischaracterizes the Attorney General's law enforcement directive. The law enforcement directive basically set forth minimal standards for local police about what they can and can't do when dealing with ICE. I think the resolution is an insult to the diversity of Parsippany. There are a lot of immigrants in this town. The Attorney General's law enforcement directive does not invite illegal immigrant criminals to flood Parsippany, which is what the resolution seems to imply. I think that's fear-mongering, and the town council, as many of you have said tonight, represents all the residents of Parsippany, everyone. The resolution that was passed at the last meeting does not represent all the residents of Parsippany. It creates a climate of fear, and it sends a message that we don't value people of color in this community. It's going to result in racial profiling, and it just doesn't have a place in this community. So I'm just voicing my objections to that. I have a copy here of the Law Enforcement Directive. Essentially, it requires that local police cannot stop and question people about their immigration status. I mean, as a white person, I don't have any worries that someone's going to stop me and say, hey, what's your immigration status? But if I were black or brown or a different, visibly different, that might be a worry. And that shouldn't be. There are other provisions in the directive about it. And
1 minute.
all right, thank you. Essentially, this doesn't open the doors for people with criminal backgrounds to flood our community. There are exceptions made in this directive for local law enforcement when they're seeking and pursuing an investigation into a serious criminal offense. So I would really like the council to reconsider this resolution and truly represent the people of Parsippany.
Ma'am, can I ask you to sign in?
I did sign in.
You sign in? Perfect. Thank you so much.
Are we going to answer him? Are you answering him? Nobody is answering him.
All right, I'll respond if I may.
Excuse me, we just need to maintain order, so we cannot yell from the...
Go ahead, Mr. Drew.
The resolution does not say immigrants. The illegal is the term that we're concerned about. They are coming across the border from Mexico, and you have slave labor, you have drugs coming across. I, for one, think that we should build a wall, not to keep everybody out, but to, I know, I could tell that from your comments. But it's to vet people so that we know who is coming here, and we control the ones that come here, and we keep the bad ones out. That would be the purpose of the wall. In the meantime, they're coming here in floods. The patrols down there cannot even keep up with the number that are crossing the border, and it is creating chaos in all the southern states, and they're coming here too. It's the illegal ones. My grandparents came here from Italy, but they came the proper way. They became American citizens. They learned the language, and they assimilated into the culture. Anxiously, they wanted to. A lot of immigrants are here, and they're all welcome, okay? But they did it the right way. And those who are coming here illegally shouldn't be jumping ahead of those who are waiting patiently in line to come here legally and can't get here because others are jumping in line. It's not right.
Yeah, that's the truth.
I'd like to add to that because, ma'am, you threw out words like people of color. It has nothing to do with people of color. There is no mention of that whatsoever in there. This is talking about people coming into this country illegally, and then Parsippany becoming a sanctuary town where these people can come and stay here illegally and are welcome. I am all for people looking to better their lives and come to this country and better themselves and have a nice life here, but do it the legal way, do it the right way. That's all that we are asking. Obviously, there are, I'm not going to say all of the people that do that, but the people that divert around the system and don't want to be on record, there's a lot of them that they do it for a reason, okay? As a former law enforcement officer, I know. I dealt with a lot of these people, They are here, they commit crimes, they're deported. A year later, they're back committing crimes again. Be on record, do it the right way. There's no mention of color in that. All we're saying is we don't want Parsippany to become a sanctuary town where people that are illegal, think of the word, it's illegal. Just do it the right way. There are plenty of people that live in Parsippany that did it the right way, the legal way. Just go through the system and do it the right way. That's all that we ask.
Just one more comment, if I may. There are so many illegals in this country now. It would be impossible to send them back where they came from, nor do I believe we should. But there should be a solution to all of those that are here illegally. Not that anybody's listening to me, but the solution I would like to offer to the President and the Congress is if anyone in those families that are here illegally, I mean, most of them came here looking for a better life. I can't begrudge them from that. But if anyone in the family were to volunteer to go into service for 2 years, they and their immediate families would automatically become citizens. Somebody in the family would earn the way for their family. That I believe would be a good solution. Not that anybody's listened to me, but if you know anybody in Washington, that one I think would work. Volunteer, to be on a voluntary basis. We're not forcing anyone into the military. But if one goes, the husband, the wife, the children, and the parents could not be evicted, and after they serve 2 years and honorably discharged, they all automatically become citizens. A possible solution.
I made a statement 2 weeks ago at our council meeting. And I said my husband was a first-generation American. His father came here from Italy for a better life for his family. And I think that's what every immigrant wants, a better life for their family. We're not opposed to that. We welcome that. We welcome you into this country with open arms. But just as Paul said, come legally, not illegally. Also, there was a post on Facebook, the Morris County Democratic Committee post on Facebook. And I'm just going to quote a portion of it. A rising divisive language of sanctuary cities to divide Parsippany's probably diverse residents. And it was talking about our council president, Sergeant Paul Carriffy. And they wanted to know, how is he training our policemen and women when they go through the academy? When you made this post on Facebook, Democratic Morris County Committee, did you ask his superiors? Did you talk to some of the policemen that he trained? I don't think so. Did the Parsippany Chief of Staff, the Parsippany Democratic Committee Chair, who is also the Chief of Staff for our mayor, when this comment was made on Facebook, did he interview anyone? He has worked with Paul for 2 years since this administration's been in office. Has he heard Paul at any time say anything that was against an immigrant or immigration? I don't think so. I believe this man deserves an apology, not only from the Morris County Democratic Committee, but from our Chief of Staff, who is the chair of the Parsippany Democratic Party. Thank you.
Mary Przicki, Marcella Road in Parsippany. I, for one, did come here tonight because I was not home, I was out of town. I read about this resolution on sanctuary cities, and I have to agree and thank the council for the resolution. Do you know Eastern European countries in the 70s and 80s, when the door was opened and they were trying to escape communism, every single one of them people who stood in line on consulates in front of consulate, the consulates that were in those countries, Czechoslovakia, Poland, trying to come to America because of the persecution that they were suffering. And they were doing it the right way. Lines and lines and lines of them, because I have second cousins in Slovakia. And they did it the right way. Yes, they tried to go for asylum. And they needed asylum because of what was going on. And for that little moment, there were people standing in line day after day after day after day to come to this country, and to come to this country the right way, the legal way. And some of them didn't make it. I mean, we have to realize that the word legal means something, and federal laws mean something. You can't get a governor just to come in and say, hey, well, I want the Attorney General to disregard this and this and that. That's not the legal system of the United States of America. And you know what? Maybe somebody better start asking the people, the politicians in Ecuador and all those other countries, Guatemala, hey, what are you doing to make your people's life better so they don't have to come running across the border the illegal way? I have neighbors who are Indian, Chinese, Filipino. They all came here the legal way, and they have relatives waiting to come here the legal way and cannot because the quotas are being met. I mean, what is this country coming to? You cannot. It always reminds me of the fact that the Civil War was fought not only for slavery, but for states' rights that superseded federal rights. And that's exactly what we're doing now. States are violating federal laws. And I think somebody better be aware of that. So I thank you for what you did. The other thing, these are simple-minded things now. The other thing is when you advertise in the on the computer, you know, when you look to find out when the meetings are. So the May 21st meeting was moved to the 14th now. Why isn't that on the computer, the calendar? Please straighten it out. You know, I mean, I looked all over to figure out what the heck. I read in the paper that that all those ordinances are going to be passed on the 14th, and I look at the calendar and it says there is no meeting on the 14th. So somebody ought to straighten out the waste in the administration's office. Then the other thing, I'm here because there is waste in Parsippany. I mean, Lake Parsippany roads, which are supposed to be improved. You took Atlantic Drive, you repaved it, you put curving, you put sidewalks, everything else. Beautiful road.
1 minute, Mary.
6 months later, it was broken up, and a year we were going through potholes after potholes after potholes. Now, Everett Road, paved last year. This year, stakes all over the place because it looks like you're going to tear it up again. Allentown Road, same thing. Paved it, and now they are tearing it up. But I really wish that you'd take the money and spend it wisely, and that's on drainage, on cleaning the streets. I mean, this is, if I can pass these around, these are the pictures that I took today of the drains in the Lake Parsippany area, not around Lakeshore Drive, because that they'll go and sweep. But environmentally sound practices to keep stormwater clean is one of them, is called street sweeping, which maybe if they didn't waste so much money on the roads, because you fix them and then you tear them up and then you have to repave them again, could be used in that direction, where the drains could be cleaned better and the streets swept instead of wasting the money. So
Time's up.
Time's up. Some people had longer than me, but that's beside the point. The point is, there is waste here in this administration, and it needs to be found for better stuff.
Mary, did you sign in?
No, I never do, but if you want.
Yeah, I need you to sign in.
You sign it.
Is it okay if I start while Mary's signing in?
Yes.
I did sign in before. Hey, Mary. Adam McGovern, 87 St. John's in Tabor. A few misconceptions I'd like to address. For one thing, the definition of legal. To be an illegal immigrant, to come into this country undocumented is a civil, not a criminal offense. The current administration has been, with extreme prejudice, treating it as if it's a criminal offense, and we all have seen families separated, children locked up, and I don't see the expressions of outrage about that from this council. I believe that that's the true emergency, and that if there is an emergency, it is this humanitarian and moral crisis, which the Attorney General's directive, that was the remedy for that. He was responding, to this crisis of conscience in our country. And also, in terms of state rights, I don't know if Mary's still here. I mean, I was a bit surprised to hear her implicitly defend the Confederacy by saying that the Civil War was about states' rights. But that's what people who think, as I do, that your resolution was the wrong idea, we're for states' rights. Expressly in the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, it's outlawed for federal functions to be imposed on local jurisdictions. So no one's breaking any laws by saying you do not have to, take your cops off of actual criminal, suppression activity and turn them into federal immigration proxies. That's their job. And, local law enforcement's job is to go against actual criminals, which I'm happy that I've heard both the mayor and the current police chief say is their intention. The directive is lawful. At the moment, you have expressed, or the majority expressed, your desire to defy that. And, this to me is the actual law-breaking intent. As to having come here the right way, quote unquote. I'm only like two, 3 generations in on any side of my family in terms of immigrants. And they all came in when the laws were very much less restrictive than they are now. Somebody spoke to people exceeding the quotas. The quotas are way too small, and they also involve treating refugees from real conflicts as if they were invaders, which I think is, a very skewed morality. And by the way, I happen to be right at the moment writing a biographical book about the woman who organized the mobilization for Soviet Jewry in the 80s. She would find this resolution abhorrent. I can say that with certainty. And all those people came here, quote, the right way, because the path was cleared for them. I'm glad it was. Millions of people were, released from tyranny. But we also have to be honest with ourselves that they were being released from a country that was our ideological opponent. And, immigrants are often used as political pawns, just like I think the current president is using them as pawns to divert from, issues of more substance. So, I just urge you to listen to the many immigrants who are in this community, not all of whom started legally. One who spoke very movingly at the mayor's town hall the other week talked about how she didn't come here, quote unquote, legally to begin with, but has lived in the town for 20 years, and her kids are graduating college, and
Sir, 1 minute.
Certainly, and she wanted people to realize that it's not that easy to determine who is illegal and who isn't. It can lead to discrimination and to singling out and to profiling. That's where the people of color concern comes in, Paul. And and she just urged everyone to meet with their neighbors, understand them, and figure out, get a personal understanding of what they're afraid of. this got wide applause at that meeting, including you, Loretta, and I hope that I will see some sincerity behind that sentiment. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Irene Krivda, 14 de Eduardo Court, Parsippany. I first want to address my Democratic friends, and I want to say
Can you just speak into the mic?
For most of my life, actually, a Democrat. And I can tell you that the first thing I have to say is I take offense when anyone disagrees with
I'm
you.
sorry, ma'am, I'm sorry. I need you to face the council.
When anyone disagrees with you and you call them racist, I am deeply and deeply offended by that. I mean, when you can't make your argument and everything is about gender and race, it's a disgrace. And this all started with Obama's administration when people like me stood up complaining about Obamacare, you can keep your insurance, you can keep your hospital, your doctor, none of it was true, whatever. And they were called racist, these mobs of people. Then we have the real mobs out there actually destroying properties with masks on their face, Democrats. No, those are not mobs, okay? No, those are just people. We are the mobs. I am the mob, right? So I'm just a racist to you. First of all, I want you to know, where I live, I am the minority, okay? I live in a beautiful Indian community. I have wonderful neighbors, and I take offense to you calling me racist because I disagree with you. Another thing I want to say, when she
Please.
did, right there.
Go ahead,
Right
ma'am,
there.
face us and talk face the council.
So another thing I want to say is, because the gentleman before said about the children in cages and everything, I didn't hear any Democrat making any objections when Obama did it, because the first pictures that came out when this all became such a scandal were from the Obama administration. Yes, it was done in a larger scale afterwards from our president, but it started in the Obama's administration, okay? So I am an immigrant, yes, myself. And like my friend was just telling me before, if he wanted to bring one of his family members over here legally, there's a 20-year wait because everybody is just flooding across the border. Now, we're not just having people from Mexico like we used to coming across the border to get a job. We have people from all over the world. And you know, I grew up in Italy, and I can tell you, even in Italy, all over the world, we have people that hate our guts, okay? You don't know who is coming in. The next terrorist for another 9/11 might come in that way. Then we're gonna worry about it. And about the fact that, yes, you know what? My goddaughter is from Honduras, okay? She was telling me she was there for Christmas visiting her grandmother, and she saw one of the caravans organizing. She also told me something that I haven't seen on the news because the news doesn't live there, that a lot of these people were being paid to join the caravan and made promises. And the kids are being kidnapped to make it across the border. Where is the Me Too movement advocating for these women who are being raped and mistreated and used for prostitution and from the drug cartels and whoever? These people are giving up everything they have. They come across the border. We have child labor. We have children who are becoming porn stars. I mean, it's a disgrace. We have interviews of people. We don't see it across the border where they get up in the morning, there's dead people on their properties. We don't see that because we don't live on the border. I saw a guy over there in Texas talking about he can't let his daughter play in the backyard unless he has a shotgun over there to defend his family. Okay, this is what it's come to. That is still America. Just because you don't live there, it doesn't make it non-existent. And because I'm sure your CNN and your whatever, NBC or MSNBC is not showing you these stories, of course you don't believe it. But it is real.
1 minute.
Yes, thank you. It is real. I'm sorry, but the truth is, everybody wants to call President Trump racist. Well, let me tell you something. When we became so divided, under the Obama administration, when every citizen that complained about anything, like their health insurance, it was racist. Oh, it's because they hate Obama. And the right arm of the Democratic Party, which is the mainstream media, went right along with it. Everybody who stood up there and spoke, just like I am. Now I'm a big racist because I disagree with you. Or because you want to know something? I have had people who very well, okay, a person tell me on the phone if I would put a bullet in the president's head myself. You want to know something? I disagreed about a lot of things with President Obama, but I would never say such thing. I never hated our President Obama. He was my president too. I would never say such thing, and I would never want to be friends with anybody who said such things. My time is up.
Yes, time's up.
Hi, I'm Carrie Stetler, and I live in Mount Tabor, and I am also here to...
Did you sign in?
Yes, I did sign in. I'm also here to object to the Sanctuary City resolution. To point out, we've never... No one really has defined Sanctuary City. No one has ever declared Parsippany a Sanctuary City. When you were talking about the Sanctuary State, the guidelines, from the Attorney General, I guess what you were sort of advocating for is, it sounds to me as like that you want Parsippany law enforcement officers to enforce federal immigration law rather than just local police law. Sorry. That's a federal responsibility. There are federal resources devoted to that. That is not under local jurisdiction. You can, previously, if you weren't in New Jersey, you could cooperate to a degree with ICE if you wanted to, but you weren't, under the Constitution, you weren't required to. So, and as Kim pointed out, if there are people who were charged with committing serious crimes, they wouldn't be, we wouldn't prohibit them from cooperating with ICE. So, so yeah, there's that. So, and also, you're framing this in terms of public safety, and there have been a lot of studies that show that when residents fear that law enforcement is going to target them because of their immigration status, they're going to be less likely to come forward and report crimes, serious crimes, and that endangers everybody. That endangers immigrant communities, and not only immigrants who are undocumented, but immigrants who might have loved ones who are undocumented. They're not going to want to come forward. That endangers immigrant communities and non-immigrant communities in Parsippany. So I think that just leaving immigration laws out of it is gonna increase public safety. In terms of racism, the charge of racism coming up, I know that you don't consider yourselves racist, and I know that the resolution didn't mention race, but the undocumented immigrants are often portrayed by our president and in the media as predatory outsiders who are going to siphon resources away from community members and who are in danger. And the president isn't talking about European people of European ancestry. And when you see images of undocumented immigrants on the media, they're people of color, and many of them are people of color. So when you're invoking what amounts to stereotypes, you're invoking stereotypes of people of color. You're not, I'm sure you meant all, undocumented immigrants, but the fact is that many are people of color and many are also stereotyped as being criminal. And that's why I think that we can say that this has a racist element to it. And I'm just going to read the rest of what I said, so I'm not ad-libbing. Also, I guess I think that people should be aware that undocumented immigrants, they pay sales tax, they pay income and property taxes, and they are barred from accessing many of the services and benefits that are funded by those taxes. People who are undocumented in Parsippany, they pay taxes. If they pay rent, they're paying taxes. So also, I just want you to consider when you're talking about policies that would, I think you're talking about policies that would vilify immigrants. You're talking about this in a town with a large percentage of immigrants, and I'm sure the vast majority of immigrants.
1 minute.
Okay. The vast majority of them, I'm sure, are here. They have legal status or they're citizens, but some of them are not, and you don't know who is and who isn't, right? We don't. But the people that might have undocumented status, they're people who have lived here. Some of them have lived here for years. They've worked here. They have American-born children. They include the friends and classmates of our children and grandchildren. You don't know that someone who goes to school with your kid, they might have undocumented parents and you wouldn't know it. And maybe they've been here for decades. There are young adults who come to the U.S. as children and they grow up as Americans, but they don't have citizenship. I'm glad that you're proposing that people who volunteer for the military and their families are granted citizenship, but our president, people who were in the military, who are undocumented, who served in the military, they've been deported. So that's not happening now, so I hope that you will advocate for that. There are also people who are given temporary...
I will, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Time's up, ma'am.
Okay, what?
Time's up.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna publish this as a letter to the editor so you can read the rest, and it'll be more clear.
Hi. I think people should...
Wait, state your name and address, please.
My name is Ravi Ram Medapati. I live on 24 Raymond Boulevard, Parsippany. Just wanted to speak my opinion, as a lot of people are speaking. But just because I'm a non-white, I think I'm as liberal as it gets. But the way the current democratic policy is encouraging a lot of illegal immigration.
Could you speak into the mic?
The way the current democratic policies are, it allows it encourages a lot of illegal immigration. We already have a big problem. I'm not suggesting to throw away people, but when you have a problem, we need to cap it and have a look at it. Don't increase the problem. But the current policies are, the Democratic Party is proposing it increases it's encouraging the illegal immigration. That's what I want to say. And I think regarding that, I support the sanctuary city thing you passed.
Thank you.
Laura Quinn, 20 Mohawk Avenue. I came here tonight because I also saw the Facebook post about the Morris County Democratic Committee, and I came to support you because I read it and it was, I'll say, BS.
Thank you.
And as I sat here, I got madder by the minute and decided I have to come speak. Most of the people said what I wrote down already. In the words of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the United States has a long history of welcoming immigrants from all parts of the world. America values the contributions of immigrants who continue to enrich this country and preserve its legacy as a land of freedom and opportunity. Deciding to become a U.S. citizen is one of the most important decisions in an individual's life. If you decide to apply to become a U.S. citizen, you'll be showing your commitment to the U.S. and your loyalty to its Constitution. In return, you are rewarded with all the rights and privileges that are part of U.S. citizenship. By making this town a sanctuary city and allowing illegals to live here and get those rights and privileges, you negate all the hard work that people who did things the right way did to become citizens of this country. The Democratic Committee has said that they are concerned about what Councilman Karifi is teaching new police officers about immigrants' rights. We are not talking about immigrants' rights. We're talking about people who came here illegally. As a police officer who's training other officers, I would be a lot more concerned if he was telling them that they should look the other way when someone is breaking the law. His job is to uphold the law, not let criminals get away with breaking the law.
Thank you.
Nancy Chaffo, 5 Glenbrook Drive. I thank you for taking the time, and I'm sorry that you were attacked by the Democratic Party. That's what they like to do. They'd like to attack us and call us names rather than solving the problems that we have in this country. The U.S. Constitution grants Congress the exclusive right to legislate in the area of immigration. Congress needs to stop investigating crimes that were not committed and focus on the real issues of this country. Most of the relevant laws, including the Immigration Act, are found in the Title 8 of the U.S. Code. State governments are prohibited from enacting immigration laws. So thank you for following the laws of our country under the federal guidelines. We need to follow laws, otherwise we live in chaos. And chaos does nothing good for any citizen in any country. Just look at Venezuela. Living in chaos would be ridiculous. Wanting laws enforced does not make someone a racist. Thank you for respecting the immigrants that work so hard to come here legally and bring so much joy to our town and our township. And everyone in this town is welcomed here. And that's what it should always be, as long as you do it legally and don't step on the toes of other people coming in here illegally. Do step on the toes of the ones waiting in line. And that should never be. It is Congress's job to fix this. We just have to pick up their garbage because that's what they make us do. Really, it's Congress's responsibility, but thank you for enacting laws that are on the books. I can't choose which laws to follow. I need to follow all of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, see no, excuse me, see no one else come forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Okay, at this time, I entertain a motion to take a 5-minute break, just, we have some
Motion.
No,
council
we're not
members.
allowed. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Who's
Second.
Okay, so motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
So we're just going to adjourn briefly for a 5-minute break.
Back on the record. Entertain a motion to reconvene?
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
We're back in session.
Okay, ordinances, status of adopted ordinances, ordinance 2019:7, adopted April 16th, mayoral action April 17th, effective date May 13th.
Council President,
Yes.
since we have so many, if we can just have them just review it, and if there are any questions, if
there's
that's
any,
okay?
good idea. Anybody has any questions, concerns?
No, they're all, they've
Call
all
them.
been up.
All right, we'll get to page 5, ordinance 2019:27, Mr. DePiero.
Ordinance 2019:27, an ordinance of the Township of Parsippany, Troy Hills, Morris County, New Jersey, consenting to petition to annex a portion of Block 200, Lot 1.2, in the Township of Parsippany, Troy Hills, by the Township of Hanover, and approving annexation of a portion of Block 303, Lot 14, in the Township of Hanover. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany, Troy Hills, held on May 7th, 2019, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on June 11th, 2019, at 7 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, if I could ask the council members to continue to look at through the next few pages, if there's any questions or concerns.
Yeah, I have a question on number 2. Why do you have a 30-page ordinance on filming?
Okay, so here's the issue. I just wanted to address that. When the clerk's office has been receiving an inordinate amount of calls with regards to TV shows coming in to film, and we've tried to, in order to protect us from liability and them coming on these township properties, to try to draft some contracts to protect us. But the issue is if we don't have some kind of authority to allow us to do that, we're unable to. So we did request the legal department to give us some kind of an ordinance or direction, giving us the power to be able to draft contracts and to be able to protect the township from liability when these TV shows do come on our property and in our right-of-ways. So that's the only reason, Councilmember DePiero.
Okay, but when I read it, I mean, it's about 30 pages long. Can't we meet that objective in 3 pages?
We could,
And not 30 pages?
We could review it, and once we review, we can definitely try to cut it down. Not a problem at all. Absolutely.
I know you lawyers like to write a lot.
Well, I do, and
You get paid by the hour. I know you get paid by the hour.
I'm not getting paid by the word, unfortunately. But we did take a look at a number of similar ordinances, and we settled on the form that was proposed for introduction tonight.
Quite frankly, this when I read this, it looked like we're discouraging from anybody coming here and filming anything. And we have a lot of beautiful locations in our town, and I would rather flaunt it and be proud of our town than make it so restrictive that no one wants to come here and film.
Right, well, it wasn't to make it overly bureaucratic or restrictive. I don't think the ordinance as drafted is quite 30 pages. I think the copy I have is about 5. But I will certainly take a look at it and see if we can tighten it up
I
a
see.
little
I
bit.
can see from here. You have much smaller print than I have.
I don't know about that, but I'll take a look at it.
Please, yeah. That I don't want to. I would like to encourage some filming here and show some of the beautiful spots we have in Parsippany.
Right. Well, as the clerk points out, there's always a balance, right? So we need to be able to regulate the use of public property for filming, and then on occasion we do receive requests for filming on private property that does have some impacts on adjacent neighborhoods. So we attempted to address both of those in the ordinance.
Can I respectfully ask to take another look at it?
Absolutely.
And see if we can simplify it?
Absolutely, sure.
Thank you.
I have a question on number 3, please, white-collar salary ordinances. There's a assistant business administrator, 100,000 to 125,000 is the range. We don't have an assistant business administrator. Are we proposing to have one, and why?
Through you, Councilwoman, the position is currently vacant. We did maintain budgeting for that because the position is funded through the utilities. It is not funded through the current fund. We did go out with an advertisement, but due to budget constraints, we did hold off on filling the position. My recommendation to the council would be to leave it in the salary ordinance. There's no cost at this time because the position is vacant. But in the event that we do try to restructure some of the aspects of the administrative office, it might be valuable to leave it in the ordinance.
How long has this opening been available?
Well, I guess one could say that when I was appointed, Ellen assumed that position for the period of time that we overlapped. Prior to that, I believe it was Cazzarelli who held it prior to Ellen holding the title while we overlapped.
Okay. And
We do have the title, I agree, but when I'm looking at the top salaries in some of these positions, that's one of them. If I look further down, I know Ann Cucci, Chief Financial Officer, her salary's listed there with the range, and that's fine. But right below that is Director of Finance with almost the same salary. I just don't want you to begin filling, because these are listed here, that you have the right to go and fill them all and increase our taxes. What does this have to do with what actually what positions we budget for?
So through you, Council President, all 3 of the positions that you mentioned, Councilman DiPiero, would require council approval. So the protection, if the council is not inclined to fill those positions, is that the council would have to vote to appoint those people. The mayor would submit a nomination, and it would need the consent of the council. I can tell you that many of these positions have just historically been in the salary ordinance. I can tell you that there are a number of positions in here which remain vacant, but they have been maintained in the salary ordinance for a number of years. What we plan to do this summer is do an overall title and compensation review for all municipal positions. So I would venture to say that once we're complete with that work effort, you may see some of these titles fall off this salary ordinance when you give it consideration in 2020.
And Council President, I'd like to take a look at a legal issue about whether or not council has the authority to approve or disapprove subordinate hires under the Faulkner Act and civil service. You know, typically, council has the role to advise and consent with respect to municipal officers and department heads. So I'll take a closer look at that issue.
Well, we're only looking at white collar salaries now.
Correct.
Not blue collar, not
Correct.
civil service. The other thing that concern I had that Ann Cucci did explain to me was like some of the salary ranges, you know, like an assistant purchasing agent from 22,000 up to 55,000. That's a heck of a salary range. But Ann Cucci explained to me that the civil service jobs, they put that range in there on purpose. In case you want to promote from within, you have some leeway. Civil service, you have to advertise throughout the state. But if you have somebody in-house, you could maybe hire in a range than the bottom. Right?
Yes, and also that could be a part-time position, a second position with someone who's an assistant purchasing agent. We actually had one like that who held a little bit more, a second title there. So when we do this review, like Keith is talking about, that's part of what we're going to be doing. Okay, this is an effort to go forward with the salary ordinance as it stands right now, and then with the review of all the salaries in the whole town, and the positions, because there are multiple positions. For example, me, I hold like 3 of them. So that's one of the things we're talking about, really looking in depth, and we realize it's going to take some time. So this is why we did what we did.
Okay, thank you.
And through you, Council President, professionally speaking, this is not my preferred way to do a salary ordinance. The other municipalities that I've worked in, the individual who's currently holding the position's salary is listed rather than a range. I honestly think that from a transparency standpoint, the structure of this salary ordinance is not necessarily beneficial to the public. The public should be able to go online, pull up the salary ordinance, and see what that employee in that title is making, rather than have to look at a range, which again, to Councilman DiPiero's point, could range from $22,000 to $55,000. Right. You really, as a member of the public just seeking information, would not have the ability to actually know what that person is earning as a township employee. So all of that is going to be looked at as we undertake this title and compensation review, and we may come back to council and ask you next year to consider a different format as you consider the salary ordinance.
Just one more question on here. You have director of PAL, 25 to 70,000, but I've just heard from the public, whether it's accurate or not, that guy's making 100,000.
Similar to Ms.
looking down.
Cucci. Yeah, similar to Ms. Cucci. There are 3 titles associated with that position. That was also the way it was structured when the prior PAL director was employed by us.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the non-consent agenda.
Resolution 2019-106, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills authorizing execution of agreement with Parsippany Hanover Realty 2 LLC for off-site sewer replacement. Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2019-107, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills authorizing execution of agreement with Cedar Brook Condominium Association, Inc. for temporary construction access and right of entry. Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2019-108, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills directing the Planning Board to undertake a preliminary investigation pursuant to the redevelopment law to determine whether the portion of Block 303, Lot 14 in the Township of Hanover, proposed for annexation constitutes a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment. Condemnation.
Right.
Motion to approve?
Somebody want to explain to me what that says?
Okay,
That's
this
that area.
this
Can we,
requires a little.
oh, yeah, we should probably have the explanation before we do a vote.
Right, so this requires a little bit of explanation. Consistent with the redevelopment plan and the redevelopment agreement for the Stanbury project, there had been proposed an adjustment to the municipal boundary line.
Yeah, we're annexing, we're giving them a piece, they're giving us a piece.
Correct, and essentially the township gives up a little less than an acre to Hanover, and in exchange, Hanover gives us 2 acres in return. That essentially squares off the property line and allows a building development envelope to be squarely in both communities.
And it gives them the hotel.
Yeah, correct. But because this 2 acres has not been studied under the redevelopment law, because heretofore it was in Hanover, it now needs to be referred to the planning board so it can be made part of the redevelopment plan. There's a corresponding action that's being taken by Hanover.
This will make it consistent with the rest of the redevelopment plan that we did.
That's correct, and there's a corresponding action being taken by Hanover to do the same thing on the approximate 1 acre that the township will exchange.
Okay, thank you.
So we had a resolution.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, if everyone can take a look at the consent agenda, if there's any questions or concerns. Okay, hear none. Mr. DePiero, approval of payroll and bills list.
Item C, okay, approval of payroll and bills list. CFO Ann Cucci recommends authorization for payment. 1, authorize payment of the 5/3/19 regular and miscellaneous payroll estimated at $1,700,000. Item 2, payment of bills from voucher list of 4/11/19 through 5/3/19 totaling $9,843,886.65. Motion to approve the authorization for payment above.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Executive session resolution, whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss Habitat for Humanity, Henry Street, attorney-client privilege, contract negotiations, Southeast Morris County Municipal Utilities Authorities. And whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting. Motion to adjourn in a closed session.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
We're going to adjourn into closed session. Thank you.
Any action?
Yes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Entertain a motion to reconvene?
Motion. Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
We are now back into open session.
Entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call. Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
We are adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night,